But first, Sherry Papini in court after admitting she faked her own kidnapping nearly 6 years ago when really she was visiting an ex. Thanks for joining us at 5 o'clock. I'm Curtis Meng.
And I'm Elizabeth Kling. Our news is also streaming live on CBS News Sacramento right now. Today, Papini made her first court appearance since admitting that she lied about 2 Hispanic women kidnapping her.
Now, cameras aren't allowed inside federal court, but CBS 13's Madison Keating was there and walks us through exactly what played out.
Well, it started when Papini got out of a car surrounded by her legal team, walked straight through the doors behind me as we were asking questions. And once we got inside, we heard from her for the very first time since she admitted her guilt when she said, "Yes, Your Honor." Do you have anything to say to law enforcement that it's taken 5.5 years of trying to solve this crime?
Yeah, it's a long process. Life is very complicated, and all we can do at the end of the day is the right thing.
Sherry Papini didn't answer any of my questions on her way into the federal courthouse. Inside, Papini's lawyer, pictured next to her in this courtroom sketch, put his hand on her back when she was first addressed by the judge. Her voice shook. She sounded like she was on the verge of tears when asked her name and basic information. All proof for the judge she was competent to waive a trial and plead guilty. She'll plead guilty Monday for the first time on the record. In today's arraignment, her secured bond changed to an unsecured $50,000 bond. Assigned by the courts, she's not a flight risk. On her way out, more questions.
If she could tell you now how she feels, I think you'd really see deep.
Can you give us an idea of what that feeling is like?
It's a lot of pain, a lot of sorrow, a lot of shame.
Sherry, do you have anything to add?
And there was always parts of us. I mean, from day one, day two, it's like, hey, this ain't what it isn't what it's supposed to be. That was always a common conversation. But as the core investigators, we have an obligation and a duty to investigate a crime.
Brian Jackson, a captain at the Shasta County Sheriff's Office, was on Papini's case since day one. It's vindication, he said, for their team, who Papini lied to since the start.
Things just naturally weren't making sense. And I know people say, oh, it was a hoax. It was all a joke from day one. We all had those conversations, but we were focused on finding information to support that.
Now, before the arraignment started, Papini's lawyer coached her, told her to take deep breaths and not let the silence in that courtroom before things started get to her. He said he knew what was coming. And of course, she was visibly emotional today because that mail fraud charge that she has agreed to plead guilty to holds a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison, not to mention hundreds of thousands of dollars of fines and restitution fees.
Madison, I'm curious, inside that federal courtroom, could you tell if there were any supporters there for her husband, any of her family members?
This was a very different scene, Curtis, than we saw play out when she was released from jail. At that point, we saw many family members protecting her, helping her to a car a block away. But today, it was all business. She came in dressed, ready for court, surrounded by only her legal team. And after everything was done, which was about 15 minutes, they walked out and they went to do some housekeeping on the 5th floor here in the federal building, and then they left. So very different scene and no family that we could see.
Well, curious if her family is still standing by her after this admission. All right, Madison, thank you.